everyone, this is Jacque Williams. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to talk about the Perennial Lavender Suite. And this is what I call a mega suite because we have two stamp and die sets as well as papers, embellishments, and the beautiful die cut butterflies. So here you can see the stamps a little bit better. I particularly like these postage stamps, so we'll be using those today. And I just want to show you quickly these papers because they are quite beautiful and the catalog doesn't always do them justice. Not anybody's fault, just sometimes you just can't see all the detail or all the little prints very clearly. So you can see we've got beautiful prints as well as some more solid prints to coordinate with those. I particularly like this one here with all of the white flowers in that. That one's especially nice. So I'll show you some projects with all of those on it as well. So let's get started with a card for today that will show all of the stamps. Well, not all of the stamps, but a stamp, at least one stamp from each of the two sets as well as the papers. So I've got a crumb cake base today and we're gonna just fold that in half. And then I have a mat of white that's a little bit smaller than my card base front. And then a little bit smaller than that, I have one of the beautiful prints. I would have used that one that I pointed out with the white flowers, but I have used pretty much every bit of that for scrapbook layout that I'm teaching. I just have little pieces left. Okay, and then before I put that on though, I'm gonna use just a few little pieces of the celebration ribbon, the pool party crinkle ribbon. I think this ribbon is absolutely gorgeous, and although technically there's no pool party in the papers, I think that it actually tones in really well. So I'm just going to wrap that around like this and just kind of eyeball that it's about at the same place. And then I'm going to put this onto my card base with dimensionals. Looks a bit funny right now, but it will look good momentarily. Then I have cut, using those postage stamp dies, the second largest one and then one of the smaller ones out of craft. And you might be thinking, we don't have craft paper. And technically we don't, but we do have craft note cards, and you can cut this out of a craft note card. I'm just going to very lightly go around the edges with some crumb cake ink. Now this ink pad is brand new. I just unwrapped it today, so I'm just being very careful not to get too much ink on there. I'm going to put the larger postage stamp on with dimensionals, and then this smaller one I'm going to stamp some words on there using early espresso. And I thought the sending love and wishes was most appropriate just because it says sending, I guess, to go along with the postage stamp theme. And I'm just going to put that on flat in the center, but maybe a little more to the right hand side. Then I've cut out with the smallest postage stamp die a couple of just little ones out of the purple designer series paper. And I've got a dimensional on one end and then glue on the other, because this one I'm going to kind of put off the side here. And because this is on dimensionals, then that little edge needs to be on a dimensional too. And this one, I'm going to do some stamping with Orchid Oasis. So I'm going to grab my grid paper again, and what I have here is actually the die from the Perennial Postage set that is the postmark. And I've just put a wad of glue tack on the back just so I have something to grab. You probably have something you could stick on there. You could even just stack up some dimensionals perhaps. Now, it's not going to stamp crisp like a rubber stamp. You see how it's kind of faded? That's okay. I'm going to just go with that look. So I'm going to ink that up, and then I'm going to stamp that on right onto my front here. And you see I've got kind of a partial look, and I'm okay with that. And I'm going to take this and just kind of eyeball maybe about like this. So I've got some of that postmark on this guy as well, and then I'll just make sure they overlap. There we go. Then we just need to do our flowers. So for our flowers, I'm just going to stamp the stems in Lost Lagoon. And then to stamp our flowers, I'm going to do a very fun technique called the baby wipe technique. So you need some kind of a wet wipe. I don't recommend using ones maybe that are antibacterial or that have alcohol in them, but just something wet. You could possibly also try just wetting lightly a fairly sturdy paper towel and using that. So I'm going to use, I think for my background, I'm going to use Fresh Freesia and Pool Party. And basically what we're doing is making a little temporary ink pad. Okay, now I'm going to take my larger flower stamp, the one that's a little bit thicker, and I'm going to stamp that. And I'm going to do 2 or 3 of them so that I can then choose which one I like the best. Okay, then just to not waste ink too much, I'm going to just use the same little puddle of ink, but I'm going to add Berry Burst and Orchid Oasis, which will make that, you know, darker and add some different colors to it. But all these colors are actually in the papers. Maybe just let it sit for a moment. You could even spritz some water on it just to help the colors blend together a little bit more. But as you tap it with your stamp, it also kind of moves the colors together. And then I'm just going to take that thinner, more detailed stamp and stamp that through the middle. And some of them will come out darker than others. You'll get some different colors. So that's why I suggest stamping a few of them so that you can select which one you like the best. Now you can just maybe stamp some more and just tuck them in your stamp or your die case to have for the future. You can also just re-wet this tomorrow and re-enliven the ink so you can carry on using it. But just keep in mind that the longer this sits, the more the colors are going to sort of mix together, and you may end up, you may not get that mottled look after a while. Then I'm just going to take those dies and cut these out. Beautiful. Now let's go back to our card. And I find the easiest thing is to adhere the flowers on and then go ahead and put the stems on after. Now they're going to be too long, and we'll just trim them off. And then you can decide if you want them to be at the white or cut them off at the crumb cake. I'll cut them off at the crumb cake, and we'll see what we think. I think I like it that way. And then I'll add a little linen thread bow just on one of the flowers. And then let's add some of our purple gems. I quite like these Berry Burst ones. I feel like they add some good contrast with the purple, but I'll use all 3 colors on here. There we go. And that is our finished card. Now I have some other samples to share with you. So this one is a similar idea, but completely different colors. And instead of having layers, I've just inked a background using the postage stamp die as a mask, and then used Bubble Bath with Berry Burst for my flowers on this one for actually quite a different look. And then I have this one where I've used a different flower in this set, but I've used the same baby wipe technique, and this time used more of the neutral papers there in the background and accented with Pretty Peacock. And this is a 1-layer card that I did probably a month ago or so. I actually think this one is quite beautiful. Just used the stamps and the inks to create a beautiful flower and butterfly scene. And then this project is one from my embossing folder techniques class, and this is quite fun. We didn't use the printed papers at all, but instead created this beautiful background using our embossing folder. And then I've also created a 12 by 12 layout with these papers and used those beautiful butterflies, added a little ink to them just to add some color, and then used all the papers, and I did add in just a few prints from the Masterfully Made papers as well. And then this is the second page to coordinate with the first one. So I hope that gives you lots of inspiration and ideas with the Perennial Lavender Suite. If you enjoyed this video, please share with a friend, leave me a comment, and of course subscribe. This is Jackie Williams. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next video. Bye-bye. Where the heck is the end?